into God Bless Fantasy Football Waiver Wire Tuesday. Heading into Week 8, Sausha Durkan, Andrew Rogers, Cam Broham on the board. There are many things a man can do with his time, but none are better than this. God bless you and God bless fantasy football. It's that time again. And I'm excited to go through this list because there are names that finally can be worthy of a burn.
Okay.
Last week, not so much. I know we handed out some names. And first off, I'm really sorry. Let me start by saying I'm sorry for what we told you to do on Sunday because that wasn't right. That wasn't right.
No, it wasn't.
We had a bad Sunday. Kenyon Drake was one of my favorite plays after J.K. Dobbins was out and will be out for 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Gus Edwards gets the start. Thank goodness John Harbaugh was like, yeah, let's just go away from the guy that just tore it up after Dobbins gets injured. Yeah, it happens. It happens. Other plays that we had you go after, basically everybody got hurt.
Yes.
Everybody got hurt.
Half the NFL.
I almost said yesterday,
hurt.
Sunday. And there were just so many injuries that now it presents a great time in fantasy to go back to what I said early on in week 1. Did you save your waiver? Because I'm never somebody that burns my waiver whenever I have a deep enough bench to suffice.
Right.
And I'm always somebody that holds on to it because it carries over week after week for moments like these, right? Now, you may have burned it in week 1, 2, because James Robinson was available and he was a guy that became a starter. And that's a name that we'll bring up again in this show. And of course, there are other football ads that you could have gotten on the waiver wire. But how about after the week 1s and 2s when people start to go off? Did you hold it from week 3 until this point? I'd be really interested to know how many fantasy football players did, or if they resorted to panic mode, as I have done in a couple of leagues, in order to make myself competitive and at least put me in a position to where now that we're halfway through the season, my team is still in playoff contention.
Right. I feel like that's a really good Twitter poll question. Have you held on to your waiver or have you already burned it? And when did you burn it? Exactly?
You know what? Let's put that out today.
Yeah.
We'll put that on Hurrdat Sports. And if you follow along with this show, like I know a lot of people do, make sure to vote, get that in. I'd be curious to know what the percentages are on that, because
I bet I would not be surprised if most people have already burned it at this point, just because of the sheer amount of injuries from
it's been an injury-riddled season. You're right. It wouldn't surprise us if it was somewhere like 86-14 or 90-10, but I could also really see it being something like 65-45.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of smart fantasy players out there. 65-35 math. I don't get paid to do math. I did well though on the 86-14
on your own. I was like, okay,
maybe
110%.
Maybe there are 110% of people out there, huh?
Maybe we give it 110% by using our waiver wire
110%. And I'm about to here because we found these in the break room, and they are shrimp chips, and that does not sound like something I would ever buy at the store.
As you try this, I'm going to give you some stats.
And this is I've never had these. Yes. Let's start with that. I've never had a shrimp chip. It's puffy. I think I saw in the bag that there's a lot of garlic on them, but it doesn't smell fishy at all, which I was like, I actually sniffed the inside of the bag to be like, does this smell like shrimp?
So no one can eat anymore now.
Well, I didn't sneeze in it. I just sniffed. I inhaled. I didn't exhale. Okay. All right, let's see here. First try.
I was going to say, chew with your mouth open. It's an audio podcast. The only time you can get away with it. You got to hear the crunch.
Oh gosh, that aftertaste.
It's so it
I don't taste the shrimp until the end.
A film, because it's like puffy. So like when you eat the Cheeto Puffs, it kind of leaves a film in your mouth. First of all, on the bag it says it's 13.5% shrimp, which is fantastic percentage. But how much do you gather?
Is that actually a fantastic percentage?
I don't think so.
I didn't know if that was like a real thing.
Unlike the actual stats we'll give you in just a few moments on these players that we selected for this week. Also take really quick a guess at how much a bag is at Costco. One bag.
So Costco normally
and this is like a 64-ounce bag.
Right. It's a big bag, but when you go to a store like that, you get more for less, right? So if you factor it in, like, let's just say, I don't know how much like a normal Doritos big bag is, but I'm going to guess it's like 16 ounces. So if that's like $4.
Mhm.
If you do that,
He's doing grocery math.
yeah, I know I can do grocery
Yeah,
math, but
also account for
I can't do
inflation.
poll percentages. All right, so if it's around like $4 a bag, 16 ounces, so we'll round it up to 20 to make this easier. You said 64?
Probably about that.
So we're looking at roughly like $14-15.
No, try double. Actually,
what?
it's like $32.
What? Who's spending that money?
People who like shrimps.
But it's only 13.5% shrimp.
But I know
You could buy
that's
actual shrimp for cheap, like cheaper amounts, right?
It's ground up. I'm sure they were like freeze dried.
Who likes shrimp enough to put it on a salty snack? That's what I want to know.
I thought they were good, but not
like,
good enough to spend $32 on a bag of chips.
But if I'm gonna pay for something that's bad for me,
the future,
I'm getting Cool Ranch Doritos from the store.
Yeah. Eat those in a whole sitting while you're watching football on Thursday or Sunday this week.
And hopefully that leads into some benefit from the waiver wire that we have heading into week 8. And this is the perfect time to bring up this name. We are 5 weeks away from the return of DeSean Watson. And I know what people at home are thinking. Why would you say that, guys? It's almost like a sin to say the name DeSean Watson, which, hey, put emotions aside, this dude is a fantasy league winner. So that's how I look at it. I know he's a sleazeball. He's a slimy. He is a menace to society. Whatever you want to, describe DeSean Watson as, you're right. You're 100% right. But where I'm telling you I'm right is when it comes to fantasy production. And whether you have a bench of 5 spots, you have a bench of 10 spots, whatever it is, DeSean Watson is still 16% owned. There are so many quarterbacks that were supposed to perform this year that have been underperforming that now is the time or injured. And where now is the time you snag that future gem. Yeah. And that gem is DeSean Watson. Hear me out here. Time's running out on this Browns team.
Yeah.
They went all in on DeSean Watson in the offseason. They gave Houston 3 first-round picks. They want to be competitive down the stretch of the season in order to attain a playoff spot. This is a win-now team. You don't want to give Houston the opportunity if you are, they're 2-5 right now. Mm-hmm. If you keep trending this direction, Houston could end up with a top 5 pick. You don't want that.
No, you
don't. For a guy that you didn't even get to have for the majority of this season. Mm-hmm. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, because by the time DeSean Watson comes back, ironically against Houston in week 13, it'll be his first game in roughly 2 years. So he is either going to be completely stone cold or he's going to be itching for that fire to get back into the game that he loved. You're going to get the combination of probably the 2 in that first week 13, but that's not the start of fantasy playoffs. Week 14 is the start of fantasy playoffs. Now you're looking at the point to where you're like, hey, if I'm the 6th seed, if I'm the 1 seed, why not grab a guy that's going to average in a standard league 21 points? That's more than the Geno Smiths you can count on right now. That's more than Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. If you've been holding on to hope on those guys too, this is the type of guy that puts up fantasy points. He always ends up as a top 5 quarterback in fantasy football. Always. In the seasons that he had at Houston. His last season at Houston, he had like 4,800 yards. He had 4,800 yards in a season. Yeah. Like I said, he hasn't played in 2 years, but now is the time to grab DeSean Watson and wait on him for 5 weeks. Put emotions aside, because this guy wins you your league.
I didn't go all in on DeSean Watson, but I did when we were talking about kind of just like comparing notes a little bit earlier. I brought up this name, and by the way, in my notes there are about 10 question marks behind it. But if you really need somebody to stash on your roster, you could pick up Jameis Winston. Listen, he's going to be returning soon from injury. Yeah, make your face, whatever. But Andy Dalton decided that his still favorite thing to do is throw interceptions on Thursday Night Football. So like
that's been Jameis Winston's favorite thing to do in his career.
Well, and I understand that too. But if you really needed to stash somebody, I also have Jared Goff on here, but I also mentioned last week listen, because I said to sit him next week, but he has a favorable matchup. And last week on Sunday's episode, I said in favorable matchups, you could start him, but in unfavorable ones, don't. And they have a favorable matchup. But anyway, back to Jameis. I feel like I'm like Jim Carrey right now. It could probably be assumed that Winston gets the start when he's healthy. The Saints don't have a great record right now, but if he gets the start this week, the Saints are facing the Raiders, and that defense lost last week and allowed the third most fantasy football points to quarterbacks.
The Saints are an oddly, weirdly good team.
Yes, it's so freaking unbalanced, though.
You look at Taysom Hill and think, how do you have a guy that is a utility infielder that can play quarterback, tight end, running back, probably safety at some point whenever they go down on defense? How does he perform well this day and age in football? How does that happen?
It just, you have a team like the Saints that needs somebody on their team like that. Otherwise, they're not going to score any points.
And look, Chris Olave is awesome.
Yeah.
He's awesome. He leads that team in red zone targets on the year. He is one of the best wide receivers that came out of the first round of this past NFL draft.
Mm-hmm.
The Saints are building their team again to be great. The quarterback play, and I know it has a lot to do with injuries, but it's just been so inconsistent.
Yeah.
And that actually hurts these guys, the Chris Olaves, the Alvin Kamara's, who has he scored a touchdown yet? I don't think so.
I don't think he has.
We're 7 weeks into football, and one of the top running backs, the most highly touted running backs in the league, is not in the end zone, not once.
Not even one time.
And Taysom Hill's gotten in 25 times?
Right.
I don't know what they're doing in New Orleans, but I'm telling you, it's not consistent for me to back a Dalton or Winston at this point.
You needed to stash somebody, though. That's why I put it on here.
Yeah, and you can stash Jameis Winston and see what's up. I just don't think there's a lot of upside to it, personally. But that's just me. That is just me. I'm one man.
Just one guy.
One man, high and mighty on my hill. Let's go to some running backs. I was between two here, and I'm sure a lot of people out there are too. But I'm going with my gut, okay? I've always been a Chuba Hubbard fan. Go Pokes.
Mm-hmm.
But I've said this since the start of the season. Deontay Foreman has been the guy that's looked better from the stretch of the end of last season coming into now. He stepped in for Derrick Henry last season. He played 9 games. He only started 3, but he averaged 4.26 yards per carry in 3 games last year that he actually, one of them may have been a start. 2 others I don't think were. He had 100 yards or more and averaged 19 to 26 touches in those outings. Those are numbers that you see great RB1s put up weekly. Now, I know that's a small sample size because that's 3 out of 9 games. But if you look at Chuba Hubbard, in the whole season that he covered for Christian McCaffrey after going down with injury, Hubbard averaged 3.5 yards per carry that season, which is what a backup running back should do when the starter is healthy. And he played in all 16 games, started 10 of those games. Now, Hubbard, in this past game, did average 7 yards per carry before leaving with injury. He could have returned, but the Panthers said they didn't need him because they completely stepped on Tom Brady and the Bucs like they were an ant, and I'm a 4-year-old just killing insects on my back patio. Yeah. So it's not to say Foreman will immediately be slotted in to get the most points weekly, but just based off the revival we saw from last year at Tennessee, that's enough for me to say he's the better back where we sit today.
Okay.
When Chuba Hubbard went out, and there was a timeshare, it was about 60-40 in favor of Hubbard. Foreman ended with 15 carries, 118 yards, and he totaled 145 yards in that game. Now, 2 of those carries, one was for 60 yards. The other, I think, was for 27. So 87 of the 115 came on 1 carry. But that can happen when you're as explosive as a guy like Deontay Foreman. That's why I like him. I lean him more than I lean Hubbard just because I dealt with Hubbard all last season, and I was sick and tired of seeing the stat lines of 19 for 36.
Yeah, that's not a good feeling.
So that's where my gut tells me to go. Yeah. Deontay Foreman over Hubbard. I try to get both, right? If you have bench space for both, try to get both. But I lean more Foreman, but at least for the immediate future. Starting on Sunday, Hubbard, I guarantee, gets the first touch. But I look more to the future now.
Right, at this point.
It's between these two guys. There's no McCaffrey coming back at any point. If you look 2-3 weeks down the road, I can guarantee Deontay Foreman gets first touch. I can guarantee it.
That's actually why I put Kyron Williams on my list. I understand that he's still out with a preseason ankle. He had surgery preseason, but there's been rumors that he'll have a significant role in the Rams offense once he's back, and that could be a few weeks yet, but a good stash because Henderson and Akers are not doing so hot as people thought that they would.
And they're looking to trade Cam Akers still.
So Williams could be just a good stash, or even in an IR position to be looking down the road in the next couple of weeks. One person who is still currently playing, I put Gus Edwards on here. In his first game back since 2020, Edwards established himself as a lead back. He ran 16 times for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged so far in his career 5.2 yards per carry, and Dobbins is out with a knee until at least week 12. So Edwards is likely to lead the Ravens backfield, and then they're going to face Tampa Bay, who's suddenly struggling against run defense with run defense. So I think it'd be a good pickup if you really are desperate for somebody to get you some potential fantasy football points this week.
I love that you brought up Cam Akers' name too. And I know he was just a small piece of the Kyron Williams conversation.
Yeah.
But I saw a tweet yesterday, and I'm happy I was able to find it. I just pulled it up. Worst fantasy draft picks, fewest fantasy points by round up until this point. So you look at round 1, Jonathan Taylor. Okay. Well,
yes.
Don't look too much into a lot of these because injuries are why they've made the list.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor in round 1. Round 2, Javonte Williams. He's out for the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. Round 3, Keenan Allen. That dude just can't stay healthy or even stay on the field for that matter. Plus, coming back last week, he did not show up well. Round 4, Allen Robinson. Can you believe Allen Robinson was taken in the 4th round of most drafts, the number 2 receiver in LA? But as we've seen all season long, Matt Stafford still favors Cooper Kupp more than anybody else in that offense.
Legitimately.
He has struggled a lot. He's coming out of the bye week, though. He did have a touchdown, I believe, in his last performance, and that was his biggest week. So maybe we see the resurgence of Allen Robinson. I am not holding on to hope there. Cam Akers, though, was round 5's draft pick bust. Darrell Henderson was taken in the double digits.
Really?
So everybody was,
thinking that,
Darrell Henderson, I think, was taken like 12th round, 13th round.
Yeah.
J.K. Dobbins in round 6, out for 4 to 6 weeks, but he's been out most of the year too. Elijah Mitchell, round 7, he's made a glass. Round 8, Trey Lance. He went down early on this season, but was looked at as the number 1 quarterback in San Francisco, which seeing the way that Jimmy Garoppolo is playing right now, there's no question that once Trey Lance comes back next year, he'll be the number 1.
Yeah.
Round 9, Kadarius Toney, and he is the former first rounder that is on the New York Giants, also a guy that can't stay healthy, although when he is healthy, he's matched up in certain categories with some of the best in the game. And then round 10, Sky Moore, who's been an absolute bust. The rookie out of Western Michigan. That offense in Kansas City is so complex, and he can't catch the football when it gets punted his way. I have no idea what to think about Sky Moore anymore.
Not a single reception.
In a dynasty league, I drafted Sky Moore before Drake London, Chris Olave, and somebody else big that I can't think of right now, but I will by show's end. I drafted him and Traylon Burks before the top fantasy receivers. Jameson Williams, that was the other one I was thinking of. He hasn't played all year yet, but he will make I don't want to say resurgence again because I just used that word, but I guess I'm going to use it again because he will make a resurgence once he clears the NFI list, and he will make his way back toward the latter weeks of this season. So I'll let you know when is the right time to pick him up. It's just not this week. But that's just a list of 10 guys that we were high on. And I say we as a community.
Everybody.
The fantasy football community was high on these guys. And it just didn't pan out. But that's fantasy.
Yeah. It's just how it goes. Stupid, lovely game. Again, I'm going to repeat it every single week.
Now, I talked about James Robinson earlier, and that trade was a big bummer. What was an even bigger slash to the throat was seeing Breece Hall go down with an ACL tear. The rookie on pace to be offensive rookie of the year. He was having a huge game. I know that it was the bulk of it was from his long touchdown run.
Yeah.
But one jab step and he tears his ACL, which is just miserable because it reminds me when Dalvin Cook tore his ACL in his rookie season in a non-contact injury.
Yep.
So that opened the door for Michael Carter. And I had him stashed because early on in the season, it was who was going to be the starter, Breece Hall, Michael Carter. So I just kept him as a handcuff. And when Breece Hall took over, Michael Carter became a really good handcuff to have, owned by roughly 67% of all leagues. Then right after the injury was announced, they go out and trade for James Robinson. And they didn't give up a lot to get James Robinson for that matter either. I believe they got a 6th round pick. They gave up a 6th round pick for James Robinson. The Jaguars didn't need him. They were already turning to Travis Etienne. It came a great point for the Jets to buy low on James Robinson. But what does that do for Michael Carter owners? I'm torn because early on in this season, the Jets, when they drafted Breece Hall, 2nd round pick, first running back off the board, they still said, Michael Carter's our guy. He's our number one. That's what reports said. So I truly believe this is a player you still burn your waiver on, despite this trade news. Heading into the season, this was a guy that was looked at to be the superstar of the New York Jets. That's what a report said. They said, we still like Michael Carter as our number one guy.
Yeah.
They had an even bigger superstar waiting in the wing, though, in Breece Hall. I think everybody saw through that writing. But how can you report Michael Carter as a star, number one running back for this organization, and then treat him like dirt whenever Breece Hall goes down?
Yeah.
Look, J-Rob will get the ball, but it's not enough for me right now to believe that he's going to get it this first week. It will be a timeshare, whether it's 50-50, whether it's 60-40. It may be a point to where they don't utilize James Robinson the way the Jags used James Robinson earlier this year. They may say, Michael Carter, you're just going to be the passing back. And it may screw me from telling you and picking this guy up, right?
That's usually how it goes.
I am more uncomfortable telling the people out there to get Michael Carter than I am Deontay Foreman. Isn't that weird? And Michael Carter should start.
Right. Be
the number one back on Sunday.
Are you having a gut feeling?
I don't know. Gut feeling. My spidey senses are tingling.
Where do you want to go next?
Let's talk Gus Edwards.
Okay. Go ahead.
Gus Edwards. Gus Bus. Might as well grab him too, right? Once again, can I apologize to the people I told to start Kenyon Drake? If it's any consolation, I started him too. If that's any consolation. Drake took a back seat, which was completely shocking. Because he balled out when Dobbins left.
Yes.
But then Edwards comes in. Starts the game 16-66 for 2 touchdowns. The bright spot, there is a bright spot here. The Ravens play on Thursday Night Football.
They do.
Gus Edwards was shaken up in that game. He was limited on Monday, but maybe he doesn't have enough time to heal in full. Limited practices normally means they're fine.
Yeah.
But say his injury is waiting on him, right? And Kenyon Drake could be the guy that gets the start because it's Thursday Night Football. Just throwing that out there.
That's a good point. Had
Just
not
throwing
thought
it out
about
there.
that when I was talking about him. That's a good point.
It could happen. It could happen.
Short week? Yeah.
You didn't even talk about Gus Edwards.
Yes, I did. That's why I'm like looking at you like he's
You
gonna
skipped him
repeat.
and went right to Williams.
Sure didn't. I brought Kyron Williams up first because it was a transition to
Did we talk about Gus
IR,
Edwards already?
And then I said, you know who you should pick up though is Gus Edwards.
Did you really go into depth with him?
Yes.
Where was I?
You were distracted by the shrimp chip.
Cam?
It
Is that true?
I was on the board with the shrimp chip too. It's messing with your mind, man.
It's okay.
I don't think we talked about him.
We did.
We did.
I wrote it down 3 times.
Maybe a fourth now because we're going to talk about Gus Edwards.
I guess this is a sign from the universe right now to go ahead and pick up Gus Edwards.
Oh my goodness. Maybe. Where was I?
Shrimp chip. If you want to have an out of body experience,
I was engulfed
go
in
buy
a shrimp chip.
chips at Costco.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay, too. I kind of went through it fast because I was just talking about why you should get Kyron Williams and stash him. But then I was like, but the other person I have on here is Gus Edwards.
Didn't hear
Gus
that.
Edwards for the
Didn't hear
7th
that.
time. Let's go.
Didn't hear that. I was so roped into my own thoughts.
It's all good, dude.
What happened?
I don't know.
All right, let's move on. As for receivers, go ahead, Sasha. Let me know who you like because then I'm going to butt in and basically make people scared to pick up anybody. But go ahead.
Like it all because there's a lot of injuries. So I have 2 on here. We mentioned Wan'Dale Robinson recently, but mentioning him again in week 7. We did. This was on a previous episode, by the way, not in this episode.
Hey, let's talk about Wan'Dale Robinson.
Yes.
So,
Did you? Am I on a different planet? What is going on?
no, now we're just BSing you.
I was like, holy crap. I didn't even have a shrimp chip. Anyway, we did mention him.
funny.
I believe it was on Sunday to start him. But we're going to mention him again. In week 7, he caught 6 of 8 for 50, and Robinson looked like he's becoming a
Not bad.
gigantic part of the Giants offense.
Not
So
bad.
New York faces Seattle. They're allowing almost 250 passing yards per game. And with his explosiveness and versatility, he should be able to expose that Swiss cheese secondary.
That's probably one great cheese reference. That's probably one player that I'm okay with adding this week.
Mhm.
That's probably one. Because
Yeah.
outside of that, I'm going to tell you not to freak out over what you saw in week 7.
Yeah.
MVS went for 111 yards. Week before, he didn't catch a ball.
Mhm.
Mecole Hardman had 24 fantasy points in a standard league. But don't be fooled. They spread the ball around too much. And unless there's an injury, he's not getting more targets than Juju and MVS.
Yeah.
And if I'm telling you not to pick up MVS, you're sure as heck not picking up Mecole Hardman. Paris Campbell, solid the last 2 weeks. But guess what? Indy is revoking Matt Ryan's status on the field. They're saying Sam Ellinger is going to start the rest of the year. How are we supposed to know how he's going to favor Paris Campbell down the stretch? Marquise Goodwin stepped in for the injured DK Metcalf.
Mhm.
That's just a few that I see trending on waiver wires right now. I'm saying stay away.
Just
Stay
because
away
they
from the
got
wide receivers.
A ton of points in like last week or the week prior doesn't mean that when these other players come back from injury that they're like going to stay out there and be,
Yeah,
the
you
number
have to
one.
look for the consistencies.
Yeah.
And when you see a receiver, I think it was Paris Campbell that I was looking at his numbers.
Yeah.
He went off the last 2 weeks, but if you look at the 2 weeks prior, no, wait, it was Mecole Hardman because he had some bigger weeks lately. But the 2 weeks before those, it was like 0.5 and 0.4 points in fantasy. That means he caught one pass for 5 yards, or he rushed one time for 4 yards.
Oof. Yeah, these
Those aren't guys
great.
that you go after.
Right.
So I'm not in on the receivers this week. I'm really not. I'm building my bench on running backs and DeSean Watson. That's just how I'm looking at this list. Did we talk about DeSean Watson?
Yes, we did.
Oh, okay.
We did. That was before. This episode is titled Shrimp Chip.
No, this episode is titled Alzheimer's.
My goodness. Anyway,
Shrimp chip or Alzheimer's?
that is the title. Anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode because it was kind of chaotic, but I loved it.
It was like we dropped a bomb and
Yes.
we started cleaning up the residue in one area, and then we just kind of worked our way back. But then we're like, oh shoot, we forgot about something in that area, so we had to go back and pick up the rest of the trash over there. And then we finally made our way over, and then it's like, but what about like if we go back a little bit and just double check, like maybe that's okay. And then all of a sudden we found a shrimp chip on the ground and then decided to try
Yes.
that. Gave a
Hansel
review.
and Gretel over here.
I didn't do a Dave Portnoy review, but I gave a review. Yeah, exactly. We left. It's like a play. This is literally a play.
I hope that everybody laughs as hard as I'm laughing and going to continue to laugh our way out of this episode.
And now we're like getting toward the end here.
We're Midwestern goodbying this one.
Yes, we are. It's just like just turn off the mics. Just turn them off. Just cut us. Just stop us. Good luck this week. Seriously. Good luck in week 8. Remember, there are many things a man can do with his time, but none are better than this. For Sausha Durkan, Cam Broham, I'm Andrew Rogers. God bless you, and God bless fantasy football.
Shrimp Chip.
Have a blessed Sunday.